Minutes out.
I got 3 minutes out.
I got 3 minutes though.
Oh my goodness,
you
are we
wanna have.
cutting hairs here already? 3 minutes.
Now it's 2 minutes 45.
But who's counting?
We could do introductions. Do we have to do this first?
Yeah,
We could
go-
do introductions since we have several new members. Everybody knows me. Bonnie?
Bonnie Sear, Wakefield School Board.
Rob Willett, Wakefield School Board.
Vivian Macedo, Wakefield School Board. Ann Walsh, Milton.
Donna Marie Courier, Milton.
Lou Snyder, Milton.
Andy Crow, Milton.
Steve Brown, Wakefield.
Ralph Bob Wakefield.
And Bob Lister is with us. Those of you that haven't met him yet, have heard of him, and you'll meet him soon.
Seen you on the email.
Yes, thank you for all your help yesterday.
Thanks for all your help, appreciate your patience.
Bob, I can't get back into,
Did you?
I can't get back into my list.
I couldn't.
No.
I got the
I was helping
first,
everybody
like,
else, and I
10,
forgot to mention
15,
my
whatever
problem.
it was. I couldn't get the rest of them.
Back to that,
I clicked
Okay,
on
thank
the
you.
bottom where it said 1 through 15. Couldn't get nothing.
I haven't had any problem with it.
I did it the first time.
There's,
Yeah, I haven't
most
either. I didn't have
school
problems
boards.
I
5
did, I
members?
couldn't get
Are
in
there
the second
7-member
half.
boards anywhere in the state?
Oh, yeah, yeah. There, 3 is the smallest. Largest
I
is,
went
what do you
WW,
think, 9?
9, really?
All right, well,
Manchester must be.
Springs, School Springs, and I put an S on the end of Springs, and there's no S.
Okay.
So if you just go School Spring.
Did,
I got
Milton
it by
passed their
clicking
thing
on
about,
his page where he said,
looking into
and I got the first
separating?
group
Yep.
up, but I couldn't
'Cause I
get the
don't
second
even know
group
Steve
of
Wakefield
names.
passed
Yes.
I thought I was on top of everything.
Don't mention
It's like
it.
50
You'll get
names.
appointed to
I
it.
only,
There's
I
like
only saw the
15
first
names.
group. I didn't, because
Yeah.
the page
Keep your
just
head low.
continued down.
Right.
I think there was only
Oh,
one.
I couldn't,
Mine was a bunch of them, but it wasn't, I didn't have 2 pages to go through.
All right, I show 5 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. Let's pledge allegiance, please. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, this is that unusual meeting of the year in which the superintendent calls the meeting to order because technically you don't have any leadership at this point. So the first order of business is going to be board reorganization. Once we have elected a chairperson, then they will take over the meeting for practical purposes. The order is to do a nomination in non-public session, and then once we're done with the nomination, then I will go elsewhere until the next meeting, which comes up at 6 o'clock. So that's the plan for tonight, and unless anyone has anything they would like to do first, Steve?
Yes, I would, as a point of order, I would like to say that whoever is chair of the respective boards, that someone else be the chair of the joint. You're not chair of your own board and also chair of the joint board.
Neither of the boards have established chairs yet at this point, but that's something to keep in mind. So at this point, do you have something you want to add first, Lou? Or
Oh, no. Sorry.
nominations for chairperson, please. Lou?
Since this year is Milton's turn, I would like to nominate Doug Shute as chair.
I'll second it. Go ahead, Viv.
Okay, in these meetings, we don't have a secretary, so before we go any further, I want to make sure.
that way.
Thank you, Ann. So the motion was by Lou, second by Ralph.
Okay.
Any other nominations, please?
I'd like to nominate Steve for Wakefield.
Oh, we have to
Point of
do-
order, please.
We have to do, this is SAU, not we.
No, I'm sorry.
Can I
Please.
just, there's a lot of new members, each year we take turns. Last year was Wakefield was the chair. This year it's Milton the chair and Wakefield the vice chair. If for some reason Doug had to get done, say he gets the whole vote, then whoever would be the vice chair would take over for the ensuing year, but that would not reflect on his eligibility for the next year, because next year would be your year,
The town's here.
your
Wakefield
Wakefield's
would be,
year.
would be chair next
Even
year.
if the vice chair had to take over, that's beyond, the scope of things. Just so you know how it's been going on.
Okay, seeing no other nominations, any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain. Can't vote for
Mr.
myself.
Chair, it's your meeting.
Okay, then we'll have to take nominations for vice chair.
So it's a Wakefield, is
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll nominate Bonnie as vice chair.
I'll second it.
Do we have any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Opposed or abstained?
Abstain.
Okay.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Congratulations, Bon.
Well, thank you too.
Now, we'll move right to the minutes.
We have a policy committee, is the only subcommittee of this board.
Say it again.
There's a policy committee of this board.
Oh, go ahead.
And last year it was,
Oh, you gotta nominate someone.
yes, last
Unless
year
you
it
want
was
to.
Judy, Liz, and myself. I don't know why we only had one and they had two, but that's how it was.
So, I gotta ask for nominations?
You can ask for nominations, you may want to ask for volunteers if you're not expecting a lot of nominations.
Could we decide how many people are gonna be on that committee?
Sure.
Because like I said, I don't know why two was from Wakefield, the one was from Milton, but it should be even.
You want one and
Can-
one?
Could I just ask for maybe a little explanation? We're moving into, saying that we're willing to do the committees, but it's hard to say like what the commitment is and like how
Okay.
often you meet, what the commitment is, what's expected. And if we can just get a little
Yeah.
brief history on that, then it'll say yay or nay if some of us can volunteer or not.
The SAU Policy Committee probably only meets 2 or 3 times a year because we just handle the SAU policies. We don't handle the Wakefield policies or the Milton policies, just the policies that have to do with the SAU office. And we did go through them, most of them last year, so there shouldn't be too much of a time commitment.
And is there a separate SAU policy book that we
Yes.
should have?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to ask, who would we ask? You?
Me.
Okay, because I don't believe I have one of those yet. I have all the corrections, but I have no book to put them on.
There is a separate book.
And it's generally 4 members on that, or 5?
Well, last year there was only 3. There was 2 from Wakefield and 1 from Milton. I don't know why it was set up like, I think it may had to, we usually met during the day and I think it was difficult. I don't know.
I don't even remember.
Do we have anybody that wants to volunteer from either board?
I can still do it.
I can volunteer. I'm available during the day.
Okay. All right. Bonnie and Ann, thank you very much. No, that isn't the one we're dealing with in public, this is a separate one? Is that right?
This is the policy committee.
This is the
for
policy.
But it's not on the agenda then?
No.
Oh, okay, all
It's,
right.
it's under board reorganization.
Oh, okay, all right.
And that's the only one we had?
That's the only one you have. You can have more.
No, I was just thinking, last year I thought there were, maybe there wasn't. I think there,
We had so many
I don't
more with the
remember any.
negotiations
You had
going
your
on,
committee
and
that
We
you
had
were
our
on.
committee. We had our superintendent
yeah,
committee.
okay,
It-
well, that's fine.
It would be pretty typical to have a superintendent search committee as a subcommittee, but that's, I don't know if that's the direction we're going on.
Well, we're all working as a team on that right now anyway, right?
That's correct.
So that's a no.
Okay.
Doug, can I?
Go ahead.
Just so everybody knows, in my email address, there's a period between S and Brown, so if anybody, it's not on.
Is it not on the list correctly?
No,
Well, it was, and then it wasn't, so I checked with it.
it's not on, correctly on this list here.
So it's
Sorry,
S
Steve.
period Brown?
Yes.
And Ann, can I just ask, do you get in touch with me, or does the SAU get in touch with both of us when we have policies to go over, or how does that work?
Scott Rooney is in charge of policies, and he usually sets up the meetings.
Wonderful. Simple and sweet.
No, can I go on to the minutes? Or you got something else?
Unless there's another committee that you want to create,
Does anybody,
or anybody else wants to join that one.
do we have any other volunteers?
I don't care if it's lopsided, so if someone else wants to do it from Wakefield, that's fine with me.
Or Milton.
Is it typically a daytime
Yes.
situation?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was after 6 at night, I think I could help, but I work outside, so.
Right.
And if it's a rainy day or a snowy day, I can help.
Well, like I said, it's not very often that we do
Just
it.
get a miner's hat, and you can work all night long.
Thanks, Steve. I'll think about that.
Okay, let's go to the minutes. We're just doing the same way that on the agenda, February 6th to
Do
13th.
that. Yeah, if it's, I don't wanna lopside in or anything, but,
Oh, no.
but, I could probably go on the policy, help out with the policies if it's okay with
I would-
Mrs. Walsh. I
It's
wouldn't
fine with me.
want, upset Mrs. Walsh and have it start off the year lopsided.
No, not at all.
Okay? We'll start with, what's on the agenda, the 2/6/13. Did everybody read it that was present?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of 2/6/13.
Do I have a second? You can't, you weren't present.
Lou?
Oh,
February 6th.
Lose.
Lou?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I'll abstain.
1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions.
Now, the minutes for 1/30/13.
I have a correction on the
Okay.
non-public minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
It indicates, well, on the public minutes, it indicates that Mark Courier was absent, but on the non-public minutes, it indicates his vote. And I believe that he was not here.
Thank you.
And on the front page of the public minutes, under financial reports, it says Judy Nason asked Andrew why there was no workman's comp budgeted. Andrew D'Agostino replied that it
Where were
was
you?
January
January
30th
30th.
public.
Okay. Yeah.
It should say it was under insurance line, the insurance line, not claims.
Is that it? Did I have a motion?
Oh, do you want?
Okay, second. Done, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
No abstentions.
And just a clarification on that,
Sure.
that is
Say,
approved as amended, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Point of clarification, you dealt with both the public and non-public minutes of January 30th were discussed. I wasn't sure whether the vote was on both or on one, and I don't think you voted on the non-public minutes for February 6th. Just to make sure you get everything.
Yeah, that's where I was, that's why I didn't know what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry.
Wednesday, February 6th, non-public.
Yeah, both of them. Sorry.
Okay, so
We were doing them both.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, before we go any farther, I would like to say like to say thank you to the past members, Liz, Priscilla, Judy, and Mark, and tell them thank you for their dedication. I know it takes a lot of time out of our schedules, and I know a lot of us are busy, and we all serve for different reasons. But the children and are what's our goal is. Now, what I did, I put just for information, I had Kathy Vigu put agenda preparation and dissemination, how the procedure works, because I got an email that I wasn't following the procedure right, and I had to agree with the person, he was right, so we had to make some corrections. And the other thing I gave you all, especially for the new members, is the contract with Bob Lister, so you could read it, just for your information. Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna need a motion to go into non-public.
So moved. Bev? Hello? Walsh, aye?
Snyder, aye.
Corona.
Brown eye.
Are we citing,
We're going into non-public.
are we citing what part of the RSA 91 that we?
91A32B.
Purposes of hiring.
Fog eye.
Seer, aye.
Will that I?
Mosquito, aye?
Doug, aye.
Okay, I'll call meeting to order. Salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is that single board meeting of the year in which the superintendent, for a brief, glorious moment, is the chair. So have the opportunity to call the meeting to order, and my first and only order of business as chair of the school board is to ask for nominations for chairperson. Are there any nominations?
I make a motion for Steve Brown to chair.
Motion. Okay, motion and a second. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstaining? 401. And just so everyone knows, Mrs. Macedo is taking minutes tonight because Mrs. Gauthier is unavailable. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's your meeting. I have a list of all the roles we have to fill. You want me to just pass that down? And
If you wouldn't mind.
I'd like to make a motion to have Bonnie Seer be the vice chair.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
401? Okay.
Dr. just second that one.
I'd like to make a motion to have Mr. Brown be the budget committee representative.
Well,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain. My suggestion would be that we have an executive meeting where we go over all the committees and discuss the committees. I was just counting them before someone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I believe there's more than that, isn't there?
There are two written down at the bottom in pen that
11,
I
12,
added.
13. I thought there was more than 13, but Jerry, you were gonna come up with a list. I recall asking you a couple, and you said you were working on that.
Thought we did submit that list sometime back.
I haven't received it.
I'm not sure where I gave that to you, but
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
I get 13. What,
just against you, but if you didn't get it, I can certainly pull it up on my computer. I can probably zap it up tomorrow.
well, what are people's thoughts? I mean, go ahead, Mark.
I guess I have a couple of questions. In regards to the committees, it seems like there are quite a few, but I guess I have a question in regards to why, as a board, we're actually sitting on some of these committees and you all are not doing the work and then coming to us, because you're the ones that maybe have the best interest. Point in question is that I've been told that we have a truancy committee, when in all honesty, I think that most likely is your job to meet with Jay and to meet with the truancy officer, and then if you have an issue, you come to us.
This is the first I've heard of a truancy.
Okay, that was one that I knew,
Yeah.
and then,
But those would all be privacy
Well,
issues anyway?
I have I have a couple. I have questions on, like, I was told that we have a project committee. Is that true?
never heard of it.
Okay, so that one's done. The budget committee, I can absolutely understand why we have a representative. Policy committee, I don't necessarily know if it should just be two of us working on it. I think that maybe we should have an executive work session once a month to work on those as a group, because everyone needs to have a voice in that, especially on the board, not necessarily all of you, but that's something we should work on as a core group. Professional development, I don't understand why one of us has to be on it when all of you know better what you need and you can come to us. And what policies do we have to, we should be a policy-making board, and you should have control over what, we can tell you what direction we want and what goals and where we want to be strategically, but it's not necessarily, we don't necessarily know what's best for the staff. You're going to know that, and then I don't understand why you're not reporting to us, saying, we need this policy done so that we can instill this to meet your strategic goal.
I would agree.
The as you know, the role of the administration is to support the board. The board created these committees. The administration didn't create these committees. And just like when board members have disagreements, sometimes which can be vehement, it would be inappropriate for members of the administration to try to inject ourselves in the work of the board. Our role is to support you, to stay out of your way in areas that you choose to be involved. If we wanted to go back and take a look at the roles of boards versus the roles of administration and use that to help decide whether or not some of these groups should exist, I agree. I think there are multiple board committees that really, in most circumstances, are handled by administration. The administration is ready, willing, and able to do that work. In fact, it makes it more complicated for us sometimes not to be the ones that are doing the work in the first place and bringing them to you.
So, to get back to my first statement, should we say have an executive meeting or just a regular meeting to go over this and discuss what committees we should have, and maybe some committees that we really can have the administration take care of and report back to us?
We might be close to
Is that,
accomplishing that right now.
is that just a motion? Well, this is my personal opinion. I don't know whose opinion may follow that, and it may be that we want to make a motion to have an executive meeting to kind of figure out what we need, what we don't need, re-go over everything, and then.
Right, instead of
Okay.
taking up a lot of time here in the meeting, in the regular meeting, maybe we, Because, for example, I see that the wellness committee is not on here. That you're legally obligated to have. Now, is it legally, a board member legally obligated to be on that committee?
Yeah, they're different, there are different types of committees. The Wellness Committee is an administrative committee that is required by law to have representation from the board. So that is, it's not a board committee. It's an administrative committee that needs to have board representation, and I think the Professional Development Committee is similar. It's not a committee that's established or led by the board, but it's a committee on which the board has representation. So maybe we should have broken those out more to indicate which one were board committees and which were other committees on which the board has representation.
Exactly. It's very difficult to come to the first meeting and volunteer your services when you don't know what is actually a requirement, what the time, how often you meet, what's expected of you, and even asking, we really haven't gotten a clear list of that at this point in time.
Is that list something that one of the administration would decipher, put in this category or that category, and then bring
Sure.
back to us if we tabled the committee issue for tonight and brought it back to
Absolutely,
the next
yeah.
meeting?
I can bring you a more refined list.
Jay, the last one, I can't understand your.
I think transportation and food service were the two that I added
Food
that were not
service?
on the list.
Yeah,
And that's
All
an unusual one, too.
Make a motion to table the assignment of committees until the next meeting.
I second that.
To the next meeting?
Which would be,
Whatever, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 What I would plan to do for the next meeting is bring you a recommended committee structure on behalf of the administration. And then that will allow you to take a look at what our collective suggestion is, and you can add to it, subtract from it, make it any way you want. That would be my inclination, if that's what you're looking for.
I think that's a good idea.
All right.
Is that all right with you?
I voted for it. All right, so, next we have manifest review.
Andrew, please, we need the names are wrong on the last page. Do you want us to just cross it out? Okay.
Check the registration.
Are we looking at all of them right now, or just the checks?
I'll look at all of them. Yeah, just cross out one of those and then just put your name.
What I know is, here's your check number, right? And then all of these have been paid out over the last 2 weeks.
The same thing's gonna be with this one, this is the check register.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask another question?
And then, basically, all the spending's been voted on by the previous.
Can I ask, I have another question of Andrew. Andrew, does this, if we chose as a board to have a work session once a month, like prior to our first meeting, does checking the manifest have to be done in public, or could we do that in a work session and then approve it in public? So that we have time to look everything over to understand, because coming into it, it's difficult for us to know what you want from us and what we're looking at, and we may need a little lesson on what you want us to look at. We used to have very capable people on the board that knew budget and were able to kind of guide us into what we were looking for and what we needed to do. But where we don't have that, is there a way that, does this have to be done in a public session, or can we do it in an executive session where we have time to read over it more than 15 minutes?
I'll verify if it has to be in public or not, I'm not really sure.
Okay. And I'm just asking, that's just my opinion, I'm not.
What was the masonry unlimited for, Andrew?
The blocking of the doors in
Okay.
the hallway.
Yep, yep. And what was our about?
I'm sorry?
Our Acton Wakefield watershed?
I'd have to check to tell you.
Yeah, that would be
what team
fine
it is.
if you sign the day up.
Pardon me?
Right above the
I have to
name.
look at check to see what that was for.
What that
Sorry, I
is.
can see that.
What that is.
Oh, they came in and
These are
did,
the-
they came in and did presentations and did,
Water testing?
they did water testing
Well,
for the
we
kids
did
and
the
showed how to
manifest
take
to go
samples.
through, see? And then this you'll see up here,
I remember reading that in a weekly
right
on
here.
our website or something.
These are all the.
So that was an expense to
So
the
what you sign for, so if you have any
district
question, it
to
describes.
have the water tested through the
What
kids.
they.
Apparently, it's
what
$50.
this is. So there's
I think it was
invoice
more of
amount.
a demonstration,
Okay.
not, no.
So if you want me to just.
They're testing the
turn over
water,
so you can-
we're showing the kids how it's done rather
Do you
than
wanna look at?
doing it for educational
No.
purpose for the town.
Okay.
I think he said
Okay.
$50, so I was looking at 1240. So this would help, wouldn't it? If I go like this.
Yeah. If you,
Mhm.
actually, what will help you? None of these will show up on this. Everything is into the one.
Take them all first.
So, 100. Special ed.
So the regular budget.
Right, it's just like the copy of that. So everything lines up.
Okay.
When you question your area of business.
Come in with a highlighter, different colors for different sections maybe.
Sure.
Steve, you had a question on Masonry Unlimited?
Yeah.
Did you want the invoice?
No, Andrew already told me what it was for, I just,
Infills completed?
right, the door, the front door.
Mm-hmm.
Who was choice two then?
I would have to see the, hold on.
God bless him.
It's a Title I tutor provider. It comes out of the Title I grant. SES tutor.
Are you all set?
I think I understand.
So, sign your wife for me?
Do I want to sign my life right now? I don't.
No.
Okay. It has to be approved first.
And don't use a pencil.
Need to approve it first?
Well, we'll approve it, people sign it anyways, when people are done looking at it, we'll approve it.
Oops, give me that. X's are so much easier. basically trusting Andy to take care of this business, right? We're supposed to be trusting ourselves to know what we're signing. Office areas.
If I don't, it won't stop. And don't make.
It's all like
You all set? Good?
Yeah, I am, thank you.
Everybody all set?
I believe I am.
Anybody wanna make a motion to approve the manifest?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would like to make a motion to add new business to the agenda.
I'll second that. It's not on there already.
I don't see it on there.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
That will be number 4 on the agenda, and everything else will move up a number. Is that correct?
Move down, yeah, and I'd like to take the agenda out of order. Yes, I'd like to make new business number 4, and then everything moves down. Not in the relatively, not tomorrow, next week, but within a month. I would like to see that the board hold a special meeting and we call all the employees together. And we sit down with everyone, try to get input, suggestions from all the employees on how we can make the school environment a better place for everyone. The kids and the employees included. I'd like to see the employees be part of the process. And I don't feel that they have been a part of the process in the past. So I would like us to see us, like I said, a special meeting, bring everyone together and try to make it a better environment and to see if we can come up with any better ways to make the education for the kids. Come up with better ideas for the education for the kids. And I'd like to see the employees be part of that process.
You have a date in mind?
I'm thinking, maybe give you guys a little bit of time to get your feet wet, maybe figure maybe about a month from now. Would that work for everyone?
Have to look at calendars.
We don't necessarily have to, if we want to set a date now, but
Can we set a
if you'd
date?
like to,
Set a date at the next meeting?
could set a date at the next meeting if that's what everyone's thinking. I just thought maybe, figuring about like a month, give you guys a little bit of time to get
Steve,
acclimated with something.
would you consider on a Wednesday for a staff meeting? We have a collective audience already at that point.
That would be fine, probably on our off
Yeah.
Wednesday.
That'd be great.
So,
I think they'd be very much appreciated.
Confirm it at the next meeting?
You wanna just get a date?
you wanna, well, yeah, if we're gonna do that, that kinda narrows it down to 2 Wednesdays. Or actually 1 Wednesday if you're talking about a month from now.
Don't make it too simple.
The 4th Wednesday from now would, that would be our regular meeting. So Probably, how about, April 24th?
School vacation.
School vacation.
At the 10th.
How about the 10th?
The 10th? Would work, I
That work
can set
for-
that up.
And what time is your, meeting at, Jerry?
3:30,
It starts at 3:30?
yes, sir.
And how much time will you need for your,
I can make that meeting all about you.
I don't know if all of us can be here that early.
well, no, that's what I'm saying, I mean, do you need,
I think this is important enough that it would take enough time. I try to make my meetings about an hour. You know, I think if it goes beyond an hour, people start kind of spacing out.
Oh, the 10th's no
You can't be till 4?
I can't either.
10's early
Yeah.
release.
Okay,
10th is the early release.
okay.
10th is,
Is there a reason we couldn't have?
We could do it at 4 o'clock. And I think, again, honestly, I think people would make that time to be here a little longer, because I think this is an important enough issue that they're gonna want that input, and I think they're gonna appreciate that opportunity to have that direct audience with you.
can you make it at 4? Well, what about early release, Jerry? Is that,
I would have to check see if I have anything on that early release day. Otherwise, I could make that early release we could make that early release a workshop for you to meet with them. And that would be, I think, a wise use of that time. I think it'd be great for them, and I think it'd be great for you.
well, but that would also give you the opportunity, whether you wanted to bring up anything with them prior to our meeting with them.
Well, I think I'd like to have them kind of speak from their own needs, rather than being influenced by me.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that'd be, and again, I can't say enough about how much I think that would be appreciated by the staff.
So Wednesday, April 10th at 4 p.m.
What about the 17th? I'm thinking, yeah, if we did it at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday early release.
Would
That-
be tough. That's
Yeah,
what
but
I was
that's-
asking.
Yeah.
So the
If we did-
17th.
The 17th?
A board meeting.
But that's our board meeting
Well,
then,
that's,
too.
it doesn't,
If you got,
Yeah, I guess we could,
we'll have time to go over manifest.
yeah, that,
Fine with me.
I'll make it work.
okay,
17th?
17th,
17th at 4?
4 p.m.
I'll have to
Thank
change
you.
the administrative team meeting, but that's not gonna be the first time.
So I was looking to you.
Did anybody else have anything? I've got a few other things, I'm just trying to throw this in there as well.
Steve, I do, if, it'd be a good time to bring it up. I'm going to need, on a request, a day where I would suspend kindergarten activities for the day, allowing the teachers to screen the incoming kindergarten students. In the past, it's been done, with kids in the building, and they've had limited staff to do a proper screening. And I want to make sure we have a good understanding of where our preschoolers are coming in for us, we place them appropriately. So I'd like to let you know what that date will be, but I'd like to request the date probably in April. I think it needs a vote because it would be suspending.
I make a motion to forego a day of kindergarten for new screening for incoming kindergartners.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That date is forthcoming.
Yes. Just want to clarify that with my teachers for
Do
you.
you got an issue with
Time?
time?
Yeah. Don't need to make a motion for it, do I?
Yeah, we do.
I do.
Well, we do. Do you have an issue with time?
There's not enough of it. What do you mean?
Well, as far as start time for the school board meetings?
Had a couple more hours than I did. That'd be great.
I work in Mass, so everybody understands. I work in Mass. I drive 2 hours to go to work. I leave 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't get home here till 4-ish, depending on weather. I'd like to see if we can move our meetings earlier. I don't know if that helps everybody. What do we say, 5 o'clock, I think I was thinking about. And then if we can limit the time late, because I basically can't stay here till midnight, because I get up so early. I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. don't know if that's possible. I'm just asking that question.
I would hope.
No, I'd like to see the meetings be shorter if possible.
Well-
From what from what I sat here for the last year of seeing, it drag out a little bit from, issues that just go on forever. 7:30 is what my thoughts were. These are just my opinions on these things, but, 5 to 7:30 if possible. If it runs later, I have no issue with that, but I'd like to see if we can do something like that. I don't know if that helps everybody else too. I mean, I don't know if you guys just hang around until the meetings start till 6 o'clock anyway, so.
Whenever you want to meet, we will be here. It's your meeting.
Can you, you have a problem with 5 o'clock getting here by 5?
Nope, not at all.
Do any of you have a problem with that?
It works for you all.
Do you want me to put in last
I
point
don't mind
of
getting home
order?
earlier.
Not push up after that?
Well, you can't.
So
I'll stay
5 to
till
7:30?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion from 5 to 7:30,
Last point of order?
last point of the year.
I'll second that.
Discussion? 7:30 to include non-public. Would you like to amend your motion, or would you like me to amend your motion?
You can amend it.
Okay,
You want-
can I have
you
the
wanna-
exact wording of the motion?
Do you want to amend your motion, or would you rather I,
Amend my motion for
Just-
7:30 to non-public meeting?
what, my,
You have to
start
say
time
every
move to
second.
5, and we'll adjourn public at 7, and go into non-public at 7, and we'll adjourn at 7:30.
That's my motion. Do I have to repeat that?
Yeah, okay, so the motion is to start all
Move the
meetings,
start, move the start time to 5
Thanks for the help.
PM,
to start all meetings at 5 PM,
5 PM, and to adjourn the public meeting at 7 o'clock to go into non-public and adjourn non-public at 7:30.
Thank you.
With the exception of this meeting?
With the exception of this meeting, of
Well,
course.
yeah, we'd have to, because we didn't set this agenda.
The motion is to start all meetings at 5 PM, to adjourn public meeting at 7 PM, to adjourn non-public at 7:30 PM. Is
Correct.
that correct? Okay, so Bob made the motion, and do I have, somebody
Did
make a
you
second?
second it?
Ralph?
I did second it. Well,
And are
I
you
seconded
still
Bob's,
seconding?
but I'll second it with the amendments.
Second with amendment, okay.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we'd have to leave some sort of room there. We're right in the middle of an important issue, non-public, we might need to
I agree with that.
have
Well, right, but I mean, just to set a
Parameters.
time.
A general
exactly,
time.
parameters, time frame to do that.
Okay.
Committees, we already discussed that.
You need,
I would like to ask, I did meet with Jay for the first time with Bob on Friday, and I would like to ask what the board needs to do to go green. And if we can have assistance from the SAU or from the district to help us not have to, the law books, the policy books, what's available to us so that we can go green.
There are some established models, and I think what we would do is, we could aim for the next meeting, it might be that it would be 2 meetings, to try to set up a series of steps. And the way I've seen it done before is you make everything available on laptops and you email it out so that everybody has everything they need for the meeting. They can also have a link to the laws that everybody can have on their desktop, so everybody can access it at the meeting. Links to the website, so everybody can access all the policies. So everybody has at their fingertips things that we typically now are making copies of. Those materials could be, once they're set up that way, it's easy to distribute them to the public that way, because all the board packets you send out your non-public material under separate cover that doesn't go out to the public. But you just send everything out electronically, and then everybody has it right in front of them and can scroll to the appropriate page. I've been through this before. What we ended up doing in Madison was we looked at the individual needs of board members, and we did end up buying a single laptop for a member so that they could have a designated laptop for all of their board material. Actually, I think we used one that existed in the system that no longer had some of the capacity that we would need, but it was fine for storing that amount of material. So it's definitely a process we could look into and bring you a plan and a budget for that.
My interest would be, I have business information on my laptop, and I am not willing to have the SAU business in case you ever get audited or whatever. I would prefer not to have that financial information out, so I am, my question was, I know that, do board members have the ability to get an Apple through the school program? Do we have, or can we get a small laptop, or what can we get to help us go green that will save money without using my business computer?
Yeah,
So it's,
it's a perfectly good question.
and I don't know if you need to know like how many of us would need something.
Well, what we would do is put together a plan.
Okay.
And the plan would say these are the steps, and one of the steps would be identifying what the hardware and software needs might be for board members.
All right, thank you.
Is that an interest of the whole board? I heard
don't
you
know.
express an interest, but,
It is with me.
okay.
I've suggested that in the past.
Yeah. All right.
because,
Is that
you know,
something we have to make a motion on?
No,
Okay,
we will develop a plan and get it to you.
okay, thank you.
Work session, do we want to set up a monthly work session? Any thoughts on that possibly? Maybe have a work session and then try to cut down on some parts of the regular meeting, because we are going to, you know, cut back,
Streamline.
streamline would be a good word, streamline the regular meetings. Do you think maybe we should set up a work session?
I'm for that.
Well, maybe, do we want to dedicate one a month? Do we want, or try to, how do you want to play it by ear? Do you want to set up, try setting one up one a month, and thoughts?
I'm flexible.
What would the characteristics of the work session be, Steve?
Well, basically, for example, like the manifest say, maybe. You could do a manifest say, and just to kind of try to streamline a lot of the stuff that we're going through right now that we could do in a work session, and then just come into the regular meeting and just vote on it, and then move on.
Okay.
My only concern would be conducting school board business outside of the public eye. You know, I mean, I would still want the board to do our business, or I guess make the decisions and move in certain directions expeditiously, but always clearly and you know,
Well,
all transparency and.
well, that's what I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting do it in the back closet or.
Well, I think I heard you say back closet.
I just thought it might be a good idea if we're, you know, we change the start and the end times of the meetings, whether maybe we should have a work session. For, like I said, maybe one a month or something, go over some of the issues, you know,
Being new, I see that you, like, the curriculum coordinator comes in, Andrew comes in, you come in, you give presentations occasionally as well as you. Are those things that you can come to us and give us the information in a work session so that we understand what's going on and we don't have to make votes or anything? It's like, can we have advanced knowledge of it so that we're not coming in and having to make a decision within a 15-minute span of having your presentation? Can you do that stuff in a work session to shorten that up? I guess I'm saying, like, if you have to come in, I don't know what, I don't know, so I'm asking.
Well, typically the way that that's done is we're sort of partway there because we provide the reports in writing. And typically that's done as part of the consent agenda. So all of the administration's reports would come in from all of us, and it would come to the meeting, and the chair might say, did anyone have any question on any of the administration reports? Yes, I had a question on Scott's. You deal with Scott's, okay, that having been addressed, are we ready to move on? You accept those reports by consent. And there's not a lot of discussion, there's not formal presentation, and it speeds up the meetings. You've got to have reasonably well-written reports, factual reports. I think the reports you've been getting are pretty normal, and they don't have to have any discussion at all. You can have one motion to accept the consent agenda, and that's accepting those. You can also accept committee reports under your consent agenda. You know, the policy committee has reported back. They recommend passage of policy ABC. They recommend tabling DEF. And you can accept the policy committee's report on the consent agenda, and then the recommendation of the policy committee simply is adopted by the board. That's another efficient way to use the consent agenda. Sometimes boards identify other boards that are highly efficient, and will even ask a chair or a longtime member of another board to come in and talk to their board about what are some things that they have done over time that they have found to increase efficiency. I know, Jerry, you've talked about the Rochester board as an example of a board that has a lot of members, has more schools and more students than we do, and yet they've found a way to really consolidate their meetings.
Streamline. I think, what you were talking about with committees and doing a lot of that workload prior to the meeting, so it doesn't eliminate that discussion piece before you vote on something around, but really just it eliminates a lot of the clutter and certainly discuss the bigger points. But I brought a group of Boy Scouts to a school board meeting. I said, come pick them up at 9. 15 board members, everybody in the committees, and 8:15, I'm calling saying, you might have got to pick them up now because we're done. And I thought, wow, that's streamlined. And I don't go to very many board meetings in Rochester, but amazes me that they got so much done in such a short amount of time. But they did a lot of work beforehand. And they have a lot of people do a lot of heavy lifting.
Well, that's what I was kind of thinking, like a work session type thing, try to take care of a lot of this work, and then you kind of streamline the regular meeting.
And I think it should also be pointed out that while Rochester's a much bigger district with many more students, we as a small district, we have the same issues. We deal with the same policies. We meet the same problems. So, and they have 15 people that do that heavy lifting where you're a board of 5. So I think that has to also be taken into consideration.
I think the only input I have is when the scores do come out, I think having a work session might be very beneficial, especially if we can do almost like a data looking protocol, looking at data protocol, which we didn't have time to do, but it might help answer some questions that you may still have about the data. So I would say, if anything in my report, I would say maybe that alone would be worth a work session, but everything else is pretty much like what Jay described.
You want to keep in mind that we run payables every 2 weeks now. If you do a work session, you're only going to do it once a month. You're changing your process of how we handle paying our bills.
Oh, I don't think that would be our intention.
No.
At least personally, I don't think that would be
I
our
don't think
intention.
that necessarily would have to change. We can look at that.
Still take care of it
We can
as business as usual during the school board meetings, and then the workshop would be separate, right?
I think that's Steve's
Right.
request, yeah.
So,
We're talking about doing it once a month. We're doing,
I understand.
Well, no, I'm not saying no, I'm saying, but once a month we'd be able to do it in the work session. That would take that part of it out of that meeting. And then the following meeting, that would be one of the issues that we would still have to deal with. But it would still help out for that one particular meeting. I don't know, do we want to set a work session, one for every month? Do you want to think about it?
I think it will help.
I think it would help.
Does anybody have day, time in particular?
I don't. I think I can amend my schedule to go and be there, you know, and participate in it. I don't have an idea of when it should be, or, you know.
I would suggest that we identify how long we want it to be, and then let us go back, because we all have various schedules and don't always have control over some of the things that we need to attend. So if we could decide we want 2 hours, or we want whatever you want, then let us put out some proposed regular dates that we could use, and so that we can all confer with our calendars when we have them. So we don't have to keep changing it every month. It would be nice to have a good, consistent time.
4 to 6, 5 to 7. They don't need to wait around longer than they should be.
Can you make 4 or no?
4:30?
If
Do 4:30?
If it's good for
4:30?
everybody, it's good for me.
Let's do 4:30, be easy.
4:30?
4:30?
4:30 to 6?
4:30 on a Sunday afternoon's fine. Just kidding. No. Folks decide when it's best, and I'll be there.
Do you have a day that's better for you?
No,
No?
no, what's up?
Okay. What day of the week? You pick.
Jay, I think Jay was
Oh,
hoping.
Jay, all right,
Yeah,
so,
he was
okay.
hoping that we would coordinate it with
Yeah,
the idea of everybody else's
Let me
schedule.
coordinate it with everybody, because I have various meetings that I don't necessarily control, and they're on different weeks of the, different months.
So next meeting, we can,
Oh.
Are you saying an hour and a half, starting at 4:30? That gives me enough to start on, 4:30 to 6, and we'll identify some regular days.
Should we say 6 or 6:30?
6 to 6:30.
Somewhere around there.
Whatever you want.
let's say 6.
No, it was 6 o'clock was what was said. So do you want me to amend that?
Whatever, what does everybody feel? Go an hour and a half or
I
2
think we
hours?
should wait till Jay comes back with his recommendations.
Well, I thought he wanted a guideline, but whatever, if you want.
6 to 6:30,
Something
We
around.
get done early, we get done
We
early.
get done early, we get done early.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything for new business? No? Nothing?
Nothing for me.
Public comment? Anybody? Jerry?
I was wondering, you used the term executive meeting or executive session. What, I haven't heard that before. What is that? Is that public or non-public?
Well, it depends, usually executives are non-public, I probably shouldn't have used the word executive. These work sessions will be a public meeting.
I just never heard the term here, public and non-public or workshops, and when I heard executive session, I wasn't sure what it was. Thanks.
So your workshop would include the public, the work session?
Yeah.
Because you did call it an executive meeting, which would have been a non-public.
I misspoke, I
Okay.
apologize.
And the manifest, it's my understanding, because we went through this before, has to be done in public. It has to be voted for and voted on in public. I remember that coming up as an issue.
Voted on in public?
Could it be discussed and interpreted and things like that during a workshop that?
I'm pretty sure we had this discussion, and it was determined that it all had to take place in a public meeting in front of the public.
So where the workshops are going to be public meetings, are you saying that maybe the manifest just needs to be approved and forwarded during a regular school board meeting?
Well, your workshops that you're talking about, are they, most of the time workshops don't have minutes per se, just a generalization. Is your workshop going to have minutes?
Mm-hmm.
So
I
you
would
could
hope so.
approve the manifest at the workshop as long as it was a public meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry?
They have training courses for the new board members still with the New Hampshire Education Association.
School Board Association, everyone signed up tonight.
What was that meeting you guys had on Monday? Was that emergency or?
No, there was no emergency. The budget committee called a meeting, so the board thought it would be a good idea to have representation at the budget committee meeting.
Yeah, we reviewed the water district figures, right, at the budget committee hearing.
Yep. That will ended up being pretty much it, yeah.
That's what the email was that I got to review, that we do that every year. They have a public hearing for the water district, and then they have their elections and their meetings, and usually we review those in April after the election, but we did it early this year.
Right. We also wanted to remind the budget committee that with the SAU withdrawal that passed the warrant article, that the budget committee needs to appoint a budget committee member to the SAU withdrawal committee.
Right.
So I had contacted Tony Boda and informed her that we were having that meeting to temporarily appoint someone. And then also about the SAU withdrawal, appointing some budget committee member, and she told me that she would send out an email. Well, whether she did or not, I'm not sure.
So that meeting was posted in Milton, at the SAU office?
And it was posted here,
Oh, at the school?
everywhere that it's normally posted.
I didn't see it online, and I didn't get an email from Kathy with the agenda or the notice that that meeting was taking place. That's how I usually get notified, is through an email, but I didn't get that, so I didn't even know that it took place.
We're sorry about that.
About that, but-
It was on the board out in the hallway.
Right, well, we know that you guys meet the first and third Wednesday of every month, so we're pretty much acclimated to that. And so, you know, and like I say, Kathy sends me the agenda and sends it to Dave Lee, and I don't know if Ed gets it or not, but we always get a copy of the agenda and that. And I mean, if these, I don't know what you call it, if it's an emergency meeting, spontaneous, whatever it was, comes up, I mean, I wouldn't come down here every day and check the board just in case an emergency meeting came up, or check the website every day at like 8 o'clock or noon time or some other time of the day in case an emergency came up and you guys called the school board meeting. So that was just the only thing. I was just surprised to not get a email notification about it.
Is it?
Jerry, I don't know who else called it an emergency meeting. I think you're the only one calling it an emergency meeting.
I don't know, it was unscheduled, I guess, or I don't know what it was. I don't know what it would fall under. I don't know what you call it.
Well, my understanding is that, you mentioned to me earlier that Kathy Bigu of my office, you spoke to her and she apologized, saying that she didn't get an email to you, and I apologize to you as well, that there weren't additional means beyond the regular posting to get it out. It happened on relatively short notice. It was a very brief meeting on a single topic, and I accept responsibility for making sure that the public has an opportunity to know about meetings and attend them. So you have received 2 apologies about this, and I don't know that there's much more that the board can do at this
Well, I
point.
think that the board should be aware of it, because ultimately the responsibility to adhere to RSA 91 comes to their responsibility.
Yes.
And they should know that they may not be getting the best advice from our superintendent. I think that's important for the board to know, and I think it might be important when they go to the training for the school board, that they could bring it up and they could look into it for themselves and make sure that they have the right information. And make sure that maybe they'll let people know what's going on, because that's a pretty big deal to us here in Wakefield.
Criticism accepted.
Yeah, that's fine, and I appreciate the opportunity, but I mean, the board members should know that it's ultimately their responsibility, and we talked out in the hallway, and I don't think that you were aware of what the definition was in RSA 91, Section 6, about what constitutes an emergency to have an emergency meeting. So if you want to change it from calling it an emergency meeting to calling it some other name, and so that it doesn't fall under the restrictions of the right to know law, that's fine if you want to do that. You know, call it whatever you want. I mean, we have public and we have non-public and we have emergency meetings. I'm not aware of any other topics. So I think that the board should be aware that they are responsible for what they do, and that they should probably make sure that they know what's going on and make sure that they do things properly, because they may not get the best advice from the SAU down in Milton. And that's my only point.
Thank you for your comment. Minutes of the last meeting?
Other public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ed?
Is the new website gonna have a calendar on it?
Yes.
Scott is the one who attended those meetings, yes. The new website will have a calendar. The SAU website is up and almost fully functional, and the district ones are forthcoming.
Follow up.
Good.
Is it possible that the website can have an email alert? Is it built into that, so you can sign up for email alerts if you want to, and then when the person puts the alert out, it'll go to that list? So if you're not on a list, you're not gonna know, at least.
Do you know?
It does have one, because I signed up.
Oh, okay.
So you can sign up and somebody actually goes and updates it?
Yeah.
Was that sent out this time, or is
No.
that not working right now?
I was told that the person that will be responsible for posting that on the website hasn't been trained yet to do so, and so she apologized for that. But it does have a sign-up, so I imagine that will function at one point.
Yeah, I know there was discussion today with Back Bay and the individuals who are going to be responsible for posting, so it's progressing. Yeah, please get your name in.
I mean, that would solve the problem in the future.
Thank you.
Good solution.
I think Bid's the only one that can make motions on these, but we want numbers.
But, I was thinking, I already asked if I could take things out of order on the agenda. Nate, what are you doing here? I don't see, do you have a discipline report?
I do not this week. It's the first meeting of the month. Jerry just thought with the new board it'd be nice if I attend, and I agreed with him to see.
All right, I just didn't want you hanging around there if you
No,
didn't necessarily.
I love your company.
Okay.
He doesn't know.
Okay, minutes of the last meeting?
I have a correction on page 1. It just said that the board asked that Mr. Brown, it should be Mr. Fogg, be sworn immediately.
Where are you?
1, 2, 3, 4 lines up from the 4 lines up in the number 2.
Okay.
There's a correction on page 3. Participating in it's the NAEP test, not the NAP test. It's NAEP, and it's the National Assessment of Educational Progress instead of process.
So on that one there, I'm just changing to NAEP.
NAEP, and then the following sentence has saying that National Assessment Process, it's actually National Assessment of Educational Progress instead of process.
Okay, so National Assessment of Education Progress.
Educational. Yeah.
Okay, education. Okay. I'd like to make a motion. Make the motion to approve the minutes of 3/6/13, the public minutes,
As amended?
as amended.
I'll second that motion.
You can't.
Oh, yeah,
I was
really.
there.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Of course I can.
Mhm.
You gonna tell me what I
Was he
can
sworn?
and cannot do already?
Okay. I was just thinking
Okay,
me and
so-
Liz, but yeah, you were, all right.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
We have 2 abstentions.
Yep.
3:02.
Old business.
Let's see. Old business?
I have one, Mr. Brown. At the last board meeting, there was a question about the BSOL invoice being taken out of the summer school lines, and whether that was supposed to happen. I went back and verified the minutes, and the board approved that expenditure from that line last in December. So just answer the question that came up.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Jay?
Nope.
Got nothing?
Do we have to approve these too?
That's what I was just, the minutes from the deliberative session, do we have to approve those?
I believe the deliberative session has to be approved. Oh, boy.
I was there, I can make a motion for that. Ralph was there too.
I was.
You were there? You were there.
Yeah, you weren't on the board.
You weren't on the board though.
Oh, I wasn't on the board, but I was there.
And Ralph wasn't on the board, so it's just the two of us.
I was on the budget committee.
Right.
So you can't make a motion.
You can't make a motion as a board member for
Well,
the
I
budget
wasn't.
committee.
I witnessed. I was there to witness.
The witness, yeah, okay.
Okay, we'll put Ralph as the witness and, so,
Oh, okay, you guys.
I'll make a
George.
motion to, are we supposed to be approving these?
I believe so, but unfortunately, without having a
I read
staff
through it.
attorney.
Well, it won't hurt to
I'm
approve
Right.
it. I went through it,
So-
so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the 2013 school district deliberative session.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3 abstentions.
3 abstentions.
Okay.
Correspondence, Jay?
I have no correspondence. There was a sealed envelope that came to me with your name on it.
Yes, I
That I
got it.
passed to you. I
Me too.
don't know what it was or who it's from.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
It was just a card to me
Okay.
from Wiz, thanking us for
Jerry?
the flowers.
Did you get something when we came in? Did you get something when we came in? No?
That goes to a different board.
Curriculum coordinators report.
I do have a correction on my, right underneath assessment, that second sentence. Continue to use data to modify instruction, not discussion.
To modify what?
Instruction.
Instruction.
Mhm. Any questions?
Not with the report, you said you were gonna meet this month with, the people with the social studies curriculum?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had that meeting yet?
Yep, Jerry has taken care of that part of the social studies.
Okay.
Making sure that order went in so that we are covered with that curriculum.
Great.
Do we have any kind of constitutional history in that curriculum at all? As far as Bill of Rights and Constitution and Declaration and all that stuff, what grade do the kids study that?
Typically it's 4th grade.
4th grade?
Yeah, and then you're like in 7th grade, you're doing, American history. You also have Constitution Day
And it's
that we have to go
high
over.
school as well.
We have to also, that we're by law mandated to teach on that one day. And I forget what day that is, I think it's September, I believe it is, but it's just what we cover. And that we are able to give the teachers resources, so if they're not familiar with it that well in teaching it. Every year I get emails from the state and the feds indicating what we need to teach.
I'm a big history buff, so history fan. I'm not much of a buff, but I'm definitely a fan.
We all set? Yeah. All right. Student services report.
Any questions?
Barbara asked me a question.
Here he is.
Do you have any questions?
No, it's just been busy. Just as a new board to all of you, if there are things you need from us that we aren't 100% sure you need from us, if you just let us know, because there are going to be things that we're new at that we don't necessarily know what you need, whether it's policy updates or I don't know what you could ask for, but some of us aren't all in the same loop as everybody else with experience, so if you could just let us know, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
And we'll try to provide.
Are you all set, Ralph?
No, that would be all set, but I'm okay with what's going on, yeah.
Are you all set with the
Yeah.
student services report? No? Principal's report.
Well, first let me apologize. I cut and paste my format quite often, so I left the date at the top. It says February 6th. It was certainly, this is not the admin report from February 6th.
We changed it.
You changed it? Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. So
Correct one.
I pulled up my copy that I sent out to the SAU, and geez, I owned up to a
You might
mistake.
need a copy of that. This went out by email later than the board packet, so I have hard copies if anybody needs it.
So, you know, and I'm going to go
Coffee,
over a
that's
couple
fine,
of
we
things,
don't-
just because I think there's so much great stuff going on in the building right now. The Reading Rocks, the Dr. Seuss Month celebration has just been going off gangbusters. And an awful lot of work by people in the building to make it happen. You can look out in the hallway and see the guitars with the frets and the colored-in frets that indicate 100 books have been read for every fret that's colored in. 100 minutes, excuse me.
You sure?
We had a snow day yesterday, so we had a visitor coming in, Rick Wilcox from IME up in North Conway. He climbed Mount Everest. He was supposed to be with us yesterday, and he'll come in next Tuesday, but you can check out our rock collection down here in the art cabinet in the hallway, and or down in the trophy case. We empty out the trophy case for the month to put in the rocks the kids have been calling a lot of Angry Bird rocks, if you go and take a look. So the kids having a blast with it, and you know, I can't say how excited I am to see all the teachers involved in this year. Mrs. Wilson has restarted the Pennies for Patients, which is an annual program for...
The other Mrs. Wilson.
Yes, not this Mrs. Wilson, Deb Wilson, supporting leukemia and lymphoma. The kids are, you know, very invested in that. And, you know, last Thursday night, 3/14, on Pi Day, 3/14, we had a Pi night and math celebration and family fitness night, and we were all night long. We had a blast. We were serving pizza, and the kids are showing off their math activities, taking that opportunity to celebrate math and numeracy as much as we celebrate reading and literacy. And we had a lot of great comments from parents, a lot of investment from students. And the family fitness, those poor guys, they were so busy in there after pizza was being served, I don't think they were ever going to get out of there. That place was swamped and sweaty all night long. And 8th graders got a chance to head down to Spalding last week to see an abbreviated performance of Peter Pan, which was outstanding, is my understanding. I didn't have a chance to go myself, but you know, special thanks to those who ran the Cloak and Dagger Club at Spalding and Joanne Houston for allowing our students to go down and get a taste of what high school experience is like. So, concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions? Administrative update, Dave?
Any questions? The other thing that I have, I don't know whether you want to address it tonight or not. We didn't have it in time for the packet. I do have minutes from the meeting of March 18th, if you want to entertain them now, or you can, I thought we would just do them at the next regularly scheduled meeting, but Kathy put them in my packet, so if you want to look at them and approve them now, we could have it behind us, or we can...
Oh my goodness, is that what she emailed us earlier? That just the
It's one
Yep.
topic, so
One little page.
I just got it done and put it away.
I make a motion to accept the Wakefield School Board meeting minutes from March 18th, 2013.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Abstain. That's it.
So, Everybody else set any questions for Jay? School board business residency forms.
We have called just about everybody on that list. There's still an awful lot out. Meeting with some people who are very willing to help us out and make sure they get their forms in. And with a little bit of resistance from people who think they've already done it, they thought they had sent it in, I've been here for 25 years, I don't need to send in the residency form. So, lots of different responses, but they're coming back in now.
And I would like to thank Rochester. Andrew and I met with Mike Hopkins and with some of his staff, and they worked with us to send a message out through their Alert Now system. We gave them the list and drafted a message for them, and they sent that out to everybody on our list. So they're working with us to get these in. Do you know how many we have left at this point?
We've had some we had a fair number. I'd say probably close to 75 or 80 residency forms, and now we have. They're starting to roll in now. To give you a number, they were coming in this morning even. So
we'll try to get you a number next time to bring it up to speed.
I think the 2 meetings ago was like 94,
Something
and the
like
last meeting.
That was high
was
school.
59.
That was high school only. We hadn't given you a count on.
Oh, so
Paul school.
this is collaborative?
The ones I'm talking about
Are just
only
yours?
for Paul school.
Okay.
Okay, the ones I'm talking about are talking about the high school.
We have 2 different lists we're working from.
Okay,
So how many from the Paul school?
Collectively, where might we be?
The last time we knew, we were down to about 60, but that was before the communication went out from Rochester, so we've got to be below that now.
That's what I was saying. The 2 meetings ago, I believe it was 94, and last meeting, I believe it was
15.
down to 56.
Yeah, something like,
So-
somewhere in there.
Yeah, and so, and the cutoff for us to have those in so that we don't pay the difference in
1st.
tuition is April 1st. So are we gonna really hammer those the next couple of weeks and
Well,
do the best
we are
can?
hammering them. They went to the truancy officer who was out of town,
Yes,
but
on holiday,
I think
yes.
is now back. So we're hitting people in multiple different ways and
Great,
getting them in as fast as we can.
super.
So we're making progress. It's come a long way in the last 2 meetings.
So that's.
This is the same form that's been submitted to parents in the last few years, is that right? It's been an
Yep.
ongoing project for a few years?
Every
Every
year
year.
it goes out. At the beginning of the year.
So you don't keep a historical document if a
There's
child
a-
comes in on first grade? and
People
goes-
move.
There's a board policy that requires it to be every year.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's why I get angry every year that.
That's why you get angry every year. You'll have to go to your school board. If you don't like it, forget it.
I probably have to fill in.
That's a private agenda right there.
School approval?
Yeah, that's, for us, for the new board members who don't know, we did not make school approval last year. We had a couple of minor issues, and I'll say minor, and they really were. When I came to my awareness, we put the plan in motion to rectify that. We've got most of it taken care of. It really is, it was in 2 areas, technology and music. Technology was a simple one. It was just they had stopped doing the digital portfolio because Spalding said they didn't want it. And so we stopped doing it, and it's not an option. We have to do it by law. So we do it, even though Spalding's gonna take it and probably put it in a file somewhere and not do anything with it at all. And the music one is just some pieces of the music curriculum that need to be addressed, and Mr. Kendrick's done a nice job of taking care of that. We go through the school approval process every spring, and we will do so again. I expect we'll not have that issue next year.
Is that state, is that national?
state.
Is it- Okay.
Security.
No real updates. I mean, you saw the changes we made in the hallway over vacation. We probably won't be doing anything else, I wouldn't imagine, until the following vacation.
Nice job, too.
Yeah, great job.
Nice
That's
job.
wonderful.
They did a super job. And we had a little glitch with our masonry, so, our mason, I guess would say. And so we had to hire the masonry company come in. They did a super job, and I think it looks good out there in the hallway. Now it's looking at how do we paint it and what do we do to kind of make it schooly.
Nice.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Scott?
No, I just wanted to remind everybody that our security discussion should happen in another part of the meeting. I didn't know where that was going, that's why I gave you the hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Support staff handbooks.
Those came out last time. Did anyone have any questions, comments, changes they wanted to have made? I didn't receive any requests for changes from anyone. Everybody comfortable with those? If so, we're ready for adoption.
Everybody you had time to look at it?
Honestly, I didn't have time to look at it, but
I think that probably should be tabled to the next and give the
I
new
was
board
thinking,
members
because
a
I
copy.
just got this on, what, Monday was the latest one, like late Monday afternoon?
I didn't get one.
Well, there were no changes from the last board meeting. They were handed out at the last board meeting, is my recollection, because I didn't get them done until right before the meeting, and we decided to hold off. But I don't know when new board members might have gotten. Did you not give them at the last board meeting, Deb?
Nope.
Okay, so then it sounds like we need to.
Could we
table
all
again.
get new copies, please?
Sure.
That would be great, thanks. And do we have to make a motion to table that until the next meeting?
No.
We just add it to the next agenda.
Yep.
Let's see, Food Service Options Committee. You gonna-
That's what we talked about in the last meeting, and it was to establish a committee as to whether or not it would be in the best interest of the school district to take back the food service and what the cost would be, and we talked about the federal grants and how, and we were gonna wait and get some figures from you, Angela. Were you able to get any of the figures?
Not yet.
There is, as far as we've been able to tell, there is one high school we've been able to identify in the state that is not participating in the federal lunch program. That high school does not qualify for Title I, so they wouldn't have other federal grants at risk. Numbers of different people have been talked to by different members of the administration in Concord, and they all say, that's an interesting question. We're not really sure. Nobody's done that before that we know of. So we're trying to get definitive answers without going to attorneys and asking them to figure it out, because it does seem to be unusual, and at this point, we're not spending money to figure it out. We can certainly go down that road, but at this point, we're bringing back to you that we don't have any examples right now of similar types of schools to ours that have made that choice.
Well, we talked about having the committee to look at all the options, even if we continued with the free and reduced meals, as that still having it in-house versus having an outside source, but having a little better, more input as to where we're getting the supplies from, because the concern was, I think one thing that was brought up in one of our first meetings last year was, I think Liz brought it up, that we were paying $4 a pound for hot dogs. I mean, things like that, and the food service committee would be looking at, are there other vendors? Are there local people maybe we can get produce from? Are there other ways that we can keep the cost down and keep the food service in-house? And still have the employees like we did before, but maybe a little tighter rein on the expenses and be able to make it more affordable. And I think we talked about whether or not we'd be able to do it, the whole attachment to the federal grants. I believe we talked about it had to do with whether or not the school qualified for a certain number of free and reduced meals in order to get the grants for Title I, not necessarily that they had to receive those services.
Right.
It's if they qualified. And if, in fact, the parents realize they can get, their kids are gonna get free meals, why wouldn't they send it in? So that's what this committee was supposed to be researching. What are the options? Ultimately, let's look at all the options, and let's basically get the best bang for the buck. Let's be able to see what we can do to bring those reins in as far as expenses, but yet be able to feed kids better quality food and maybe something that's more filling. And we were waiting for the figures, but we said we needed a committee to separate and start looking at all the options.
No, go ahead, Bonnie.
I actually have a question on that committee. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I look at our superintendent, I look at our building principal, and I look at our business administrator, and I don't know a lot I mean, I know how to feed children and make them happy, but financially, they're gonna be the ones that, you're gonna know if the children in your building are happy with the food that they're receiving or not. Andrew, you're gonna know if we're getting a good amount for our dollar, and if accounts receivables are taken care of, and what grants we have available. And you should be able to meet with people to set that all up, and then you all should be able to come to us without us being part of your committee, because that's what your job is. So I'm wondering why we need to have a committee when you should be getting something together and coming to us with a report. If we give you strategic goals of like, we want the kids to be happy, we know that there's been federal changes, we know that there's always growing pains when you put a new business into any small community, and we know that, I do want to say, and I'm going to put this on public record because I've been accused of offering a 3-year contract to our cooking staff because I generously gave them flowers on Valentine's Day. I could not, would not, and have not offered our cooking staff in our kitchen a 3-year contract by any way, shape, or form, but did I generally look at them and say, let's hope this gets better, and handed them each a flower like I've done every year for Valentine's Day. I wanted to get that out there because past board members told me that I was promising things that I was not. But I really think that that's, if they're fed, we're in budget, we're not breaking any contracts, you all have better means to look than us micromanaging you. Is that not true? You're not saying anything, so.
The question is there a policy? Do you want to establish a policy that would provide different guidelines than we already have? If there's not a policy matter, then it seems to me, then you need to give us information about what you'd like to have us try to do. Wanting something to be able to be done and being able to do it, there are things I want that are not possible. But we certainly can explore options. We certainly can tell you what's available, what we can learn. I can't promise that we can give you an outcome because I don't know what outcomes are possible. But if you set parameters, we'll go out and do the work. And I don't think it's anything that relates to policy or budget oversight or anything that's explicitly a responsibility or the authority of the board.
Partly between Nate and I, we are either covering lunch duty or in each of the lunches for a little bit of time each day. I hear from staff, what they think of lunch. And I think we have a pretty good handle on when the kids are happy with the lunch. And there are times when parts of lunch they're unhappy with, and that's part. You've been to enough of the meetings prior to this and heard cafe services talk about the nutritional guidelines that aren't always as exciting as kids want for their meal. They have to have an awful lot of fruits and veggies in there, and so there are going to be times when they're unhappy. I wouldn't want to throw away the baby with the bathwater. Not at this point.
Jay, did you say earlier at this meeting that the food issue was something that the board still had to have a representative in on the discussions and stuff like that?
The wellness committee is required to have a representative from the school board, and the wellness committee does have a lot of input on food. That's a significant part of their responsibility.
Thank you.
Can I ask when the deadline is to say whether we do food services or not?
30 days before the next school.
30 days before the next school year? So is it possible that maybe we put on the first work session to maybe sit and make some guidelines of what we're looking for? I don't know how the rest of you feel about that.
Because in all fairness, so that we already determined that we were gonna put off the committee discussion till the following meeting. But yeah, I wouldn't have a problem doing that at a work session.
One of the questions that I will raise when we tackle this is, one of the significant frustrations has been balancing the nutritional guidelines, which I'm not a nutritionist, but I do want our kids eating fruits and vegetables. I want them to have access to those things. They don't necessarily like them. One of my questions is whether or not the practical solution might be to stick with an established program that we can get support for, and then provide a locally funded snack if we wanted to, that is not necessarily during lunchtime. If kids get hungry, then they get hungry an hour later, or they get hungry an hour before lunch. It's not necessarily cut and dried that the only time kids eat has to be during that time period. So we may be able to have sort of a hybrid in which we make sure that there's more food available for students, but we take advantage of the bulk sale opportunity. And I wasn't aware that we spent $4 on hot dogs, but I have looked at the prices that we're able to get, and some of them are extraordinarily cheap. It's like if you want to get books, talk to a librarian. I mean, they can get cheap books, and food service can get cheap food.
We didn't spend $4 a pound on hot dogs. Liz misread the invoice. It was a 5-pound or a 10-pound package. I forget the exact situation, but it only comes to a couple dollars, the normal amount of money.
Okay, thanks.
And I think if we just gave them a chance to be a little deceptively delicious, you can hide fruits and vegetables and chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. You can do all of that. It just takes working with someone to partner to do that. Carrots and chocolate cake. I've had that. Mrs. Colbath.
It works, doesn't
it? It does work.
So are we putting on the work session agenda, talking about the food needs of the students of Wakefield? I heard it suggested, I wasn't sure. Sounds like a yes, looks like a yes.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Good.
All right, area agreement meeting with Rochester, April 29th.
Yeah, that is our regularly scheduled area meeting, and I've communicated that having a discussion about the area agreement is something that that the board wants to bring up at that point.
And what time is that meeting? Is that something we go to or you go to?
Yeah, it's something
we all
that
do.
you go to. 6, I believe. I will confirm the time.
And is it at the library at Spalding?
I don't know where it is. But we will get out the time and location.
We already touched on the website previously. Do we need to, any more discussion about that?
Well, we appreciate what has been an unnecessary, and seemed like an unnecessary amount of patience. It has taken a long time to get this up, and it's not rocket science. You got to get it set up right, and then you can get your minutes and your agendas and everything posted, and as was requested, have ways that people that want information can get information pushed out to them. I hope we're almost done. It's been a slow process, and I apologize for the rate we've accomplished it.
Steve, before we get off that area agreement, do you think maybe on the next agenda we could add a discussion about Kingswood agreement? We talked about we don't have anything in writing. Could we have that discussion? Because we have students there, but we just have a verbal agreement at this time. And I think with more students going, it would be important to have a discussion about a written agreement.
But, maybe we should wait till Rochester and find out what comes out of the meeting with Rochester, and then.
Well, it's just that even for the kids who are there, we have nothing in writing.
I understand that, but where we have this is gonna be discussed with Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
Our contract now is with Rochester.
Right.
We have a meeting coming up with Rochester. I think it would probably be, at this point, better to talk to Rochester first,
Okay.
and then discuss that afterwards, would be my opinion.
I think even for the students that we have there, even
That's-
if it's only 7 or 10 or 12 or whatever the number is, we should have some kind of agreement so
I,
that.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, if we're gonna discuss the area agreement with Rochester, why do it now when it could change April 29th, again, and then you're gonna have to redo it again?
Well, there is an agreement for students that go to Kingswood. It's quite different. What it is it's an agreement by their school board to accept your students. That's the formal step that they have to take to be accepted as a Kingswood student if they're from Wakefield. It's not an area agreement. Area agreements have to be crafted, and to change them has to go to the State Board of Education for approval. So there is a formal process by which your students are accepted at Kingswood, but it doesn't look anything like an area agreement. It's just not what you have in place at this time.
But the process is not something in place, like in writing that they will supply so many services with X amount of dollars and how many students are attending. So as we do, even though it's only 10%, we don't have anything in writing. And this day and age, verbal agreements are useless. So I think to protect our community, that we need to have things in writing. We're paying X amount of dollars for each student, whether it be 5 students or 20 students, but just have something in writing, as we do with Rochester, to protect our community as well, and protect our students that are there. I understand they're approved, but we don't have anything in writing.
But once again, I mean, at this point, why do you wanna do it possibly 2 and 3 times? Wouldn't it be better to discuss that with Rochester and then move towards getting something in writing with Kingswood? Instead of getting something from Kingswood in writing now, then go to Rochester, discuss that, the area agreement changes with Rochester, they allow more students to go to Kingswood than the area agreement now allows, then you have to turn around and rewrite the agreement again with Kingswood.
Yeah, I was just looking at generally for any student from Wakefield that attends Kingswood, not numbers per se.
But
That's fine.
Can I ask you, like, we have students through you that go to other districts. Are those area agreements, or what type of agreement is that?
I think you're sort of talking about apples and oranges right now.
Okay.
And I'll reference what Mr. McIntyre said. An area agreement or a tuition agreement is a formal process on which you say, you're going to take our kids. And it doesn't matter who those kids are. You're going to be our school for our community, which Rochester is right now, and our kids are going to go there. The area agreement allows you to take 10% of those kids and enroll them somewhere else, but there is no agreement between those districts. Those districts decide whether they're going to take the child who applies or not. It falls under their resident district non-tuition student policy, and then it's reinforced by a letter from the superintendent when the child is accepted. So there's a significant difference between, we're going to take some of your kids, and we're responsible for your kids' education. So I think there are things in writing that have to do with Wolfboro. There's a letter that comes to the superintendent that goes to the parent and copies our superintendent. There's a formal process for kids to apply once you allow them to, or if they apply first. So I think they're really two different topics at this point. Although at some point they may become the same topic if you wish to pursue Governor Wentworth.
Wakefield School Board Scholarship and Committee.
That was supposed to be established in the administration.
I think that was done last time. I think that was back on the agenda in error. The discussion was that the administration would create an application and an essay topic, and a committee was established to read the essays, which was the superintendent, principal, vice principal, and 2 English teachers, and to identify a winner of the scholarship. So I think that's been settled.
Has it happened?
Not yet.
Do we have an expected timeline so that students at all the high schools have a rough idea of how long they have? And
We haven't gotten it, we haven't pulled it together yet, so.
Okay.
We don't have an established timeline.
Can we put it on the next agenda for an
Sure.
update?
Sure, we can update you on the next
Is that
agenda.
all right?
Actually, I already have
This is
an
what
update
you're
now.
talking about, right, Jay?
No.
Isn't it?
No, that's the
No,
school
no,
board
that's the school
association.
board association.
Do you remember?
We don't
Miss-
have anything on the Wakefield.
It's in the minutes.
Right, but we don't have anything formal
No.
like that describing anything. That's what the administration's working on.
Yeah.
Mrs. Nason made a motion that got approved that they would, in lieu of the PTA being established, that they would do the $500 and.
I do remember that.
And one of the things that was suggested was it follow the same guidelines of the PTA version, and I don't know anything about that PTA version. I have not been able to find anything about how the PTA one worked, because it was a PTA activity, not a school activity. So if anybody has information, since the discussion was to follow that process, I don't have anything about that process.
I can give you
So
the information on
that
that.
would be great.
From past years.
Yeah.
All right, ad hoc committee survey?
Yep, I sent it to all board members as well as the administration. The actual survey will be turned over to Mary Moriarty, Assistant Superintendent, Rochester School District. And then they'll take it from there. She'll put it on a spreadsheet. Did you get yours?
Email.
She's gonna put on a spreadsheet. It'll be presented at the next ad hoc committee meeting, which is on March 26th. There we go. And then at that time, once they review that survey, then the committee will vote as to whether or not they want to go any further with the study or if it ends there. So they're looking at the student surveys, and now this is the parent survey. And then on the 26th, then the committee will review everything and then decide whether or not the committee's going to go any further.
And was anyone else working with you as representative for that?
Jay is.
Okay.
What's that? Committee reports, wellness committee?
There was no meeting. We had the fitness night, which the wellness committee supported the staff and was involved. And that's what they did in the pie night, but there was no meeting.
I don't know, I'd like to, maybe I should have done this a new bit, but I'd like to do, once again, the rumor mill seems to be rearing its ugly head once again. Wouldn't understand why, but, it's getting out of hand. And I just, have an understanding that whoever's, and I'm sure it's probably all of it, or most, if not all, is probably not true, but just as long as we have an understanding, that it needs to stop. And hopefully, like I said, what I'm hearing, I don't know if anybody else is, but just as long as we have an understanding that it stops.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Is that something I said?
No. Should I address, I can address this. I was accused by a past board member of being in this building every day and wreaking havoc with the teachers and the staff. And I've been in this building twice this academic school year to distribute flowers, as well as to read in a kindergarten class for Read Across America. So I have not been in here meddling. And I've also been accused of meeting behind closed doors with Jay for the past 6 months, evilly plotting, as she said, a crazy takeover of the board, which is not me, has not happened. Crazy takeover. The first time I was in Mr. McIntyre's office was Friday with Mr. Roulette. Other than sitting here and having a handshake, and I have never spoken with you before. And the rumors are just not nice. And if anyone has something to say, they should be grown up enough to talk to somebody and not listen to rumors. I'm here for the good of the kids and the good of the district.
And the biggest problem of it that I see, it's probably the same people who were sitting up here stating the same thing last year or the year before. And so it just needs, as long as we have an understanding, it needs to stop. You know, if there's people doing things that they shouldn't be because they're no longer board members, you know. I mean, I've heard rumors about things that you've been stating. Like I said, I'm sure that they're not true, but I'm getting people telling me that you're out there, you know, saying all these things, and it just
I work for the board and for the students of Wakefield, so whatever, I mean, there are rumors of me, when I've referred to, and basically an eye for an eye mentality of infighting. There are rumors out there that I have said it's karma, that has, you know, people are in bad situations because of karma, which I don't believe, so I certainly wouldn't have said. There at times has been a culture of infighting that I think we've all seen. It's not a secret, and I have in individual settings suggested that we need to get over the infighting, and we have to stop fighting and start working together for kids. But the rumors that I have been involved in other things or colluding with members of the community, and if members of the community want to come in and talk to me, that's my job. So if you had come in and talked with me, there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. It just hasn't happened. So I'm not sure where stuff is coming from, but it's people in the public have certainly seen through the last 8 months that the administration has been, staying out of matters that aren't for us. The board polices the board. The board is responsible for the board, and our job is to support the board. It's not to get involved in disagreements. Our job when there's disagreements is to stay out of it, and that's not always easy to do. So that's what we're trying to do, is focus on students, and the board is focusing on policy, and we look forward to continuing to teaming with the board.
Thank you. Comments by the public? So,
I had a phone call last Thursday from a former board member telling me basically what you just said, what Bonnie just said, and that somehow I was in cahoots with you. You've been seeing Jay for the last 6 months in his office, that I have been in cahoots with you and 2 administrators and a town employee to go after a certain member on the board. I don't know where this is coming from. I'm going to tell you it's not from me.
We know that.
Okay. As long as you know that it's not coming from me, because I was told the same thing. And I said, who is starting these rumors? This is absolutely crazy. But on another...
Or I should say, I know that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. On another subject, I'd like a clarification. When you're talking about work sessions, what's the difference between a work session and actually starting your regular meeting earlier? I mean, what would be the difference?
I think it's just basically trying to help streamline the regular meetings, that's all. Just so we can maybe, there's been a change in the hours because some members can't get here because they work out of state or whatever. I think it's just something, because there is a lot of work here, and I think it was just an idea to possibly help with the new hours that the board is going to be meeting. That's all.
Okay.
So it might be that the work session or workshop is on a different date as opposed to a regularly scheduled school board meeting and just opening up earlier, doing some work earlier on that same day.
But it would still be a public meeting.
Sure.
Still a public meeting.
And I mean, the cameras will either be there or not be there. But
Hopefully they're there.
The general public will see.
Yeah.
I just wondered what the clarification was. It seems to me just starting a meeting earlier or having a
Well,
meeting.
Just a date.
Well, I think it's to help, to try to stop the midnight meetings, is basically what it's really designed for. I've never been a fan of the midnight meetings, and to be perfectly honest with you, I've been to too many of them. And I would just like to see them stop.
I can't disagree with that.
My experience of the difference between the two has been that when work sessions have been called, they're typically informational
Right.
and not decision-making. So typically,
Right.
there are not actions at work sessions. What we haven't done this year, partly because of the length of the meetings, is spend any time with training. And it would be great perhaps at each work session, we could devote 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour to updates on school law. Let's talk about 91A. Let's have a discussion about content or about instruction, about what is it that makes a good reading program. The board typically doesn't have time to just get information to help it do its job, and that's something that you can do at a workshop if you start early and not have to go quite as late during the board meeting. So that's what I had interpreted.
One other thing, has anybody asked the parents whether or not they would want to send their kids to Kingswood if we supplied transportation? I mean, has that ever been done, you're going forward, you're wanting to have an option, which you actually do right now, but how many kids would actually go to Kingswood? What do the parents say?
I don't know if they've ever been asked.
Is that a good idea to ask them?
I would say first and foremost. Do
Well,
the kids want to go there?
Well, I think that was part of the process of us going over there and then, requesting to, set something up with the superintendent to see how many kids that, they'd be willing to accept, yada, yada. And now we have to talk to Rochester to see because that will change that area agreement, to see if Rochester will agree to, say, 50% of our kids, because I do know, I've heard a lot that people want an option. Kids want to either go to, some kids may want to go to Spalding, some kids may want to go to Kingswood. So, I would definitely think that would be, once we, talk to Rochester, I think we'll find out a lot at that area agreement when, see what Rochester's thoughts are of how many kids they would actually, will they allow 50% of our kids to go elsewhere? If they do, that would change it. And if they didn't, I would absolutely be, trying to get a bus to go over to Kingswood.
But asking them if they would allow 50% when maybe we don't even have 50% that would be wanting to go, even if there was transportation, seems a little putting the cart before the horse.
I think, as a matter of respect, for the number of years that you've been working in partnership with Rochester, my recommendation is that you talk to your current partner first and let them know that you have an interest in exploring other options. I think given the length of the relationship and the amount of support they've provided to Wakefield students, that giving them the first opportunity seems to me like the respectful approach.
Mine was just on Priscilla's comment about the bus, and you'd want to talk to parents about whether or not they'd be willing to bring their kids to a certain bus stop or pick up to head that way, or would we dedicate a bus to go all around town to pick up the kids?
If a bus was dedicated, the kids could either go to Kingswood or they could go to Rochester. Where would parents want the kids to go? If you've got 75% of them that still say Rochester, that's pretty telling. And you could, do the junior high, just, that's the parents.
Any other public comment? Sure.
Yeah, I was curious, at the last meeting, the March 6th, there was a discussion about when you guys swore Ralph in, and we weren't sure whether he was still on the budget committee or school board or both, and I thought that Jay was going to check into that before this meeting. That was the last board. I don't know if they kept up and checked on what the determination was on that.
I got informal input on that. I didn't opt to spend money on attorney time for that. The informal message was that it's not uncommon for people not to resign until they know they've been elected to another board, but the expectation typically in New Hampshire is that it be done immediately upon joining a new board is removing oneself from another board. But I reiterate that I did not go to council on that. I asked for what typical practice was in New Hampshire.
Okay, we usually, at the town level, we usually check with the local government center because we're members of that, and their staff lawyers don't charge us for advice, so we can get information on things like that without paying for a lawyer. But I remembered at the meeting that you were going to check into that. I was just curious what the outcome had been. But I think I was wondering about the website. I was wondering, is that something that Back Bay does? They do the website and the updates, because I noticed the SAU website has this meeting for the 20th posted, but it didn't have the meeting posted for the 18th. So is that something that Back Bay does? You give them the information and then they do the updates on the website?
Well, that's what I was referencing earlier, is that today, I think that's right, so days get fuzzy, was when there was the first meeting between Back Bay and the two individuals in the office they are training to post, so that when things come up, they don't have to go to Back Bay and then get put on, that we can post it right from our office. So that training started today, because our intent is to not have to do everything through them. In answer to your original question, does Back Bay do the website? The answer is yes, however, it wasn't part of their original contract. That was something that came on later. They originally were going to look at the website, were going to try to help us tweak it, and when they got in and looked at it, they said, the way it's been constructed in so many different pieces, so many different styles, so many different structures, that really you're going to be better off taking it down and starting over. So we identified additional resources, and they actually had to identify a person to do that who was not on their staff, who they brought on to work on it. So it was an additional responsibility that came to Back Bay. Fall, Andrew, is that right? Late fall, mid-fall?
Yeah, it was just before the holidays.
Just before the holidays, yeah. They had tried to tweak it and make it work, and eventually just said, you're going to be better off if we just start from scratch. And the ultimate intent is for us to be able to have the staff capacity to do all those updates, so they're really timely.
Well, that's what the town's trying to do too, and I'm surprised because I've done updates on websites, and we just built one for our local pay channel. So they make all these things more user friendly. I don't understand why it's so difficult, for them to do that. But I've noticed a lot of problems that people seem to have with Back Bay through the last couple of years sitting there watching the meetings. It seems that Back Bay, as an organization, seems to fall short of all our expectations on a lot of different areas. But that's something the board will have to do. But you mentioned RSA 91 and talking about some of the training during some of the work sessions of the boards and things. And earlier Ralph said that I used the phrase emergency meeting because I didn't know what else it would be considered, because RSA 91 explains that you can have public, non-public, and you can have emergency meetings. And they didn't have any other classification, but I did have the definition of what they considered an emergency here, and it said it shall mean a situation where immediate undelayed action is deemed to be imperative by the chairman or presiding officer of the public body, who shall post the notice of the time, meeting place, such meeting as soon as practical, and shall employ whatever further means are reasonably available to inform the public that a meeting is to be held. So they seem to have a pretty high standard for emergency or emergency meeting. So I mean, I think that if you're going to have a public or non-public or an emergency meeting, and they all fall under the topics that are covered up by the law, I don't know that if you just take an emergency meeting and call it something else, that I don't know if that's necessarily a way to get around following the law. So to the point, that was why I was trying to use that trying to find out what that actually was considered. You know,
Yeah,
because they have
there's-
those three basic topics covered, and I was trying to figure out which category it fell into.
Another resource you might want to look at is, pretty sure it was 4 years ago, I think it was 2009, that the Attorney General's office put out a document, it's about 90 pages long, that gives a lot more interpretation of the right to know law, because what's in the RSA, as you know, is very tight, and yet there is case law and rulings that all relate to that. So that document is one that I have in my office, and I've used that. My recollection of that is that special meetings are a category, but you inform me that it's not, and I don't question your knowledge of the law. I'm going to go back and take a look at that AG's report, because my recollection and from prior experience is that special meetings can be called, that don't have to be the ones that were regularly scheduled, and they don't constitute an emergency. So I'm going to look into that, because I don't like to make mistakes. And you have suggested that one of them made. You've been very public about saying that the board might have gotten bad advice from me, and I respect that. I'm not an attorney, but I do my best. But I'm going to go back, and that's the document that I'm going to reference.
Well, I can appreciate that. They always have legislative updates. I mean, every one of these laws have gone to court, and the Supreme Court and the state Supreme Court has made different rulings on different ones. And I mean, I think that the laws are pretty, you know, they're open to interpretation, and I don't think they're quite as tight as you say they are. But, you know, when you call them a special meeting, I know that if you're going to call a special town meeting, you actually have to petition the Superior Court to get permission to hold a special town meeting. So, I mean, emergency meetings and special meetings and these other things aren't just something that you just go and do. I mean, the law takes them very seriously. I mean, if you have to file, the town has to file a petition with the Superior Court to get permission to hold a special town meeting, that's a pretty high level, so.
May I address something? I know it's probably not appropriate, but I need to. You brought up the fact about the swearing in, and I was concerned about that as well when you brought it up that night, because I wasn't sure about the budget committee and the fact that you were still on it. I did go back, and I did recall that 3 years ago when there was an opening on the board, and I believe it was when Barney left, and there was someone need to be appointed. I did go to that meeting with Judy Nason, and as a matter of fact, I believe that was also a meeting where Kim was also sworn in, and Judy was appointed, and they did swear her in right then, and she was a current member of the budget committee. And going back a couple of meetings past that, it seems to be that was common practice, that only if they were offered that position that they would immediately submit their resignation. And, you know, I mean, I don't know whether, I know that's the way it's been done, because I was there at that meeting, and she was sworn in, and then she took her place as soon as they came out of non-public, you know, at the table, and then gave a resignation. So I checked only because you questioned the fact that Ralph was on the budget committee, and it was the same thing 3 years ago as well. So I just wanted to know, I checked on that, and that's the way it was handled then, too.
Well, it wasn't an issue. It all depends. It seems that this town of Wakefield has segments where it's okay at certain times for certain people to do certain things. And then a couple days later, or months or years later, another segment may come in and do an identical action, and because the other segment might be offended or disgusted or disgruntled, that's when the problems arise. So it's just, you know, they're all growing pains. Eventually, the town will grow up, and we'll have less time spent on silly issues like this.
Move motion to go into non-public. What, Jay, do you have your list by chance?
I just have my list. Tuition requests, so.
71.
Tuition requests are. Student matters.
but I gotta figure out which one of them.
Thank you, Andrew.
It's RSA 91A 2.
I hear a whinnying in the back.
Oh, actually, this is what you were asking for, it's just not in the laminated form.
Oh,
Okay.
Here it is.
Yep.
C.
91A2 C?
91A32C.
32C. For tuition request.
You as well. I'm sure.
There's not one that says tuition request, but the reason you have to have a tuition request is because it's a matter that's private in nature relating to a student, so it falls under that classification. There isn't one that specifically says that.
Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mosquito eye.
Brown eye. Thank you for coming.